Wander Wealthy Podcast, episode 75 with Catherine Alford. What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Wander Wealthy Podcast. My name is Tess Wicks. I'm your host, and today on the show, I am bringing on a good friend, a fellow blogger, someone who is part of a mastermind that is kind of on and off, but we're just in this personal finance community where we are like a big group of girlfriends who come together to talk and share things, and then we go off for a while and we come back together, and it's so fun to catch up with my blogging girlfriends. So Kat, or Catherine, is one of those people, and we got a chance to chat today, and it was so much fun. Now, let me give you Kat's professional bio because I think it's really cool to hear from how she would introduce herself. So Catherine Alford, or Kat, is the go-to family finance expert for educated, aspirational moms who want to take on a more active financial role in their families. Kat's writing and expertise has been featured in dozens of notable publications because she is a contributor and freelance writer. She's one of the best out there. These publications are like Yahoo Finance, US News and World Report, Real Simple, The Huff Post, Kiplinger, Investopedia. I mean, the list goes on and on. She's also been interviewed on Good Morning America, Huffington Post Live, and of course, numerous podcasts. She is the founder of CatherineAlford.com, an award-winning personal finance blog that she created in 2010, and she's an innovator behind the web's most comprehensive course on how to get paid to write for blogs. As an entrepreneur and the mother of boy-girl twin toddlers, she lives the messages she teaches each and every day, and I can absolutely attest to that. With that, let's get into the interview. I think it's going to be a good one for you. So here is episode number 75 with Catherine Alford. Kat, thank you so much for joining me today on the Wander Wealthy Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Tell me, where are you calling from and what's going on in your life?
Hey, thanks for having me. So I am calling from a suburb of Detroit. If you want to get real specific, upstairs in my nook by my computer. No, but in a suburb of Detroit. And what's going on in my life? So I have 4.5-year-old twins, and girl, I just dropped them off at school. And this is a new thing for us, school full time. So this is my first time being self-employed to actually have an entire day to work to myself. So that's the big transition we're going through over here. So yeah, just working and hustling and taking care of those babies.
Oh my goodness. I bet that feels like an entirely new world because you have so much, well, maybe not, but I imagine you have so much more time back on your hands for working.
Oh, I have inordinate amount of time. In fact, I'm really still getting used to it. I mean, they've only been in school for a few days, and I'm so used to working amid the chaos. Like, we've had, babysitters come and people come 20 to 25 hours a week to help me so that I can work. But I still always work at home. I still always hear them. I'm like so involved in what they do. The house is so quiet. It's so weird. I had to go to Starbucks the other day because it was deafeningly silent in here. So I'm still kind of getting used to it. I imagine one day it will be normal. So
yeah, you need that white noise in the background of people murmuring or kids singing.
Yeah, running up the stairs, getting away from the babysitter just to look at me. I just don't have my constant interruptions. I don't even know what to do. So working on it.
Oh gosh, I can't relate. I don't have kids yet, but I hear you. I want to back up a little bit because we sort of jumped right into it. I would love for you to tell us kind of your personal story around money, and obviously you work in the financial world, so how you got to where you are today. And I know that you have quite an interesting story as far as even just with your work and then moving to the Caribbean with your husband and all that stuff. So fill us in on that because I have your professional bio down. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Sure. Yeah, I probably should have introduced myself before just blabbing about my kids, but it's what I do.
That's how it works.
Right. So I'll try and give you a nutshell version. 8 years ago, I was in graduate school studying history, and it was very difficult and had lots of historical theory, and I really wanted a creative outlet, so I started a blog. And I wrote about sort of my thrifty graduate school adventures, thrift store finds. I was living on a $14,000 a year graduate school stipend at that point. I had recently gotten engaged, and so I started this blog to, document my journey. I had planned to work in museums. I love antiques and old objects. I wanted to be a curator and work in museum education. But life had other plans because my husband, he had his dreams and his goals, and he was applying to medical school, and he got accepted to medical school in the Caribbean. So when I finished graduate school, I had to make a choice. Did I stay in the U.S. while he went to the Caribbean for 3 years? I had this brand new marriage and work in museums and work on my career, or do I go with him where I had no job prospects, $40,000 of student loans, no work visa? That seemed like all the wrong choice, all around. But at age 22, newlywed, I went with him. I couldn't even afford, Tess, to buy a round trip ticket to the Caribbean. I could only buy it one way. And I just figured I'd figure it out. And I did. When I got there, I knew that bloggers were earning income. So again, I started writing about this budgeted life. What was it like to use the Eastern Caribbean dollars? How I was paying back my student loans, and I started freelance writing. And I think because I wrote about budgeting from such a normal person perspective, a lot of websites started reading it and picking up on that and asking me to write for them. And then people would be like, hey, Kat, can you write about how to buy a house? And me having never bought a house before, I was like, yeah, sure, totally. I have a history background. I can research things.
Right.
I can figure that out. And so with each new thing, I just learned more and more. And, now I have a full-fledged personal finance site. I'm a self-employed blogger. I have been self-employed for 4.5 years now. I taught English eventually down there in the Caribbean. I got pregnant with my twins and then moved back to the States. And so we've been on this sort of wild adventure. My kids have lived in 3 different states in 4 years. And, this blog carries me along the way. But basically what I do now is I'm an influencer and a blogger. I write about personal finance, and I do it all from home. And it's my 3rd 6-figure year so far. And so everything is going really well. But yeah, that's sort of the weird winding path I took to get there. I hope that was nutshell enough. It's got kind of long-winded, but that's it.
That's perfect. And I have so many questions from that now.
Yeah.
I want to start with kind of living abroad because I am currently experiencing that. And it's been interesting for me sort of watching how other people from different countries manage their money, or even what their concerns are about money. And you had been blogging a little bit about it before moving, and then obviously writing more and more about it. So I'm guessing your awareness was heightened when you were living in the Caribbean. Did you notice any differences in, how islanders manage their money or think about money or talk about money, and what kind of that taught you about your approach to money?
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, you just learn so much when you live in a different country for 3 years. You learn a lot about the culture. And first and foremost, there is a lot of poverty in Grenada where I lived. And so that was really the first stark contrast, because there are thousands of American medical school students and veterinary students on campus in Grenada. And the contrast between that and the locals was sometimes almost would bring tears to your eyes. And so the students were really great about giving back and volunteering. But what's interesting is that, they didn't borrow money a lot. I remember going to get my nails done as a treat one day, and the girl doing my nails was young, and, she was telling me how she made money and then she'd bring it back to her mother. And so everything all the kids made went back to their parents. And it was sort of like a family. Everything was for her family. The money wasn't hers to spend as she pleased. It had very strong family units, and just very big on using food from their land and their fruit trees, and there wasn't a lot of waste. And all of those different things combined, it made a massive impact on me. We lived in a 270 square foot apartment. We learned how to be very minimalist. Anytime you wanted something from the U.S., if you if you wanted to bring a computer in because your computer broke, you'd have to pay such big customs taxes on it. So it wouldn't be like Italy, where it's a really developed country where you could get the things that you needed if you wanted a hair straightener or something. Like anything you needed had to be brought in. And so you had to think really hard about what you wanted. And then things like a bag of Doritos someone brought in their bag were like really treasured. Like they'd give them to people as like, we'd give it to each other as like birthday gifts. Like, I got Doritos, I got Oreos, I brought it in my bag. I don't know. So yeah, I think that seeing how simply they lived, how happy the people were, definitely is something I'll always carry with me. I mean, I was very minimalist when it comes to my kids. They're very well taken care of. They go to a really nice school, but I mean, as far as toys and things like that, nowhere near what some of their friends have. So I definitely think it made an impact on me.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting for me as well. And I think the big thing that stood out to me, and you had mentioned this, is that debt wasn't really that big of a thing. It wasn't even really, it's not really seen as an enormous option here. You can get, of course, like a mortgage for a house, but other than that.
Yeah, there's no like car loans. Everybody has these island cars. It's very cash culture. Now, a lot of people walking around with, debit cards. I mean, very cash culture and a barter culture for sure.
So going off of that, you said you didn't have, and this is probably technical, but for anyone who wants to move abroad, you said you
Yes.
didn't have a visa or anything. So how did you kind of go about figuring that out and figuring out how were you going to make money right off of the bat with this move? Or did you, and we can talk openly about this, I think some people would be uncomfortable, but like, did your husband help you in a way with any sort of stipend he might have been getting? I don't know if you get stipends in medical school. Probably not.
Well, it's kind of, no, he didn't get a stipend, but he did get plenty of student loans. So, but that was what made me uncomfortable at first because, the medical students went down there, they weren't working. So like many students, professional students, they'd get they'd factor in living expenses to the loan. So you'd get like a refund and that's what you would live off of. But it made me so uncomfortable from day one. Like I did not want to pay my student loan bill with his student loans. It made no sense to me. Right. And my biggest goal from day one was I had a $273 student loan payment every month. And that's all my initial goal was, to pay that with money I made and not with another loan. And I knew that we would work it out eventually. Like now my budget has so many line items. Like I can't even imagine. This is like 6 years ago. I was so worried about that one giant payment. Right. But yeah, I didn't have a work visa initially. So I did all kinds of things. I taught dance at a little Montessori school and they paid me cash. And I also babysat for some of the professors' kids. And then when I worked online, I didn't need a work visa for that. My computer had a US VPN and all of that stuff. So I was earning income from my PayPal. Eventually, I did get hired by the school to teach English, and I did get a work visa through the school. But for about a year in, I did not have one. So yeah, as far as like managing the money, we would just use our debit cards and get cash out of an ATM down there and then use cash for everything, basically.
Wow. I'd love to hear about a recent goal that you've achieved, whether it's in your personal life or in your business, and how you went about kind of deciding to pursue it and how you got to that point of achieving it.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's sort of everything combined. One of the biggest goals I had was staying home with my kids and making this business work so that I could be with them every day. Mm-hmm. And it sounds simple, Tess, but it wasn't. And there was probably 2 or 3 times in the last 4.5 years where I even went and interviewed at a full-time job twice in the 4.5 years, because entrepreneurship is a wild ride. And there were times where I did not think I was going to earn enough to be able to keep doing it. So, but like each time, like something would happen, or I'd get a good contract, or the hours were so bad, I was like, I'd come home like more determined to like hustle and figure it out. And so the fact that I made it from the day they were born until I just started bringing them to school last week, and I was here every day for them, that's the biggest goal of my life, I think, that I was able to accomplish. I was very emotional sending them off, for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I can imagine, but having I have, a lot of nieces and nephews, and I can manage like one at a time, but having twins and being their mom and having to like work, like when I have to work, I'm like, all right, see ya, nap time, babysitter, like you guys go to your mom, like I get to just peace out. But I can't imagine being the person who has to manage taking care of your twins and trying to get your work done. And that kind of leads us into the main topic that I wanted to dive into with you, which ends up being kind of two prongs, because one of the things that you're really passionate about is helping other moms who want to take more of an active role in their financial lives with their families. So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about balancing like momhood with entrepreneurship. So let's go with, since we're, talking about being an entrepreneur and a mom, let's talk about that at first. What are your top tips for moms, or even just working moms who are trying to balance this whole thing? What are your kind of go-tos when it comes to keeping sanity? Maybe it's financial tips, or just, it can be anything really. There's, I'm sure, lots of stuff to share. Yeah.
Well, I think a big thing that I say that I don't hear a lot of people saying is I always say reinvest in the babysitter. Like you always hear like reinvest in the business. And I always say reinvest in the babysitter. For some reason, this is not something that people want to talk about. Like, if stay-at-home moms want to be the one to watch their kids, and working moms want to spend all their time with their kids on the weekends, so they don't want to hire a babysitter. But if you have these extra goals or business that you want to start, like you need that time. And it's an excuse that people use, and I hate excuses. Like, I feel sorry for my kids because I'm a big no excuses person. Mm-hmm. And so a big excuse that I hear from moms is, well, I can't afford to have a babysitter. I'm a stay-at-home mom and I don't have the money for that. And so I call BS on that, because my big thing is I'm not telling you to hire like a high-end graduate student babysitter for 3 months. Like, sell some furniture in your house and collect $1,000, and that will probably give you 1 month of babysitting. You can probably get, a couple hours a week out of that, and then hustle so hard during that time and earn money for the next month, and so forth and so on. Because it wasn't until I finally decided to bring in our first 10-hour a week babysitter that I really started growing my business a lot. It was too difficult to do it all at the same time and squeeze it into nap times. I really needed those longer periods of time. So there's no need to feel guilty. Like, each babysitter I've brought on has had really unique skills and has impacted my kids' life and taught them things that were not my skill set. They were crafty or really good at child development, helped them with different things. I mean, there's so many benefits to it.
Mm-hmm. And to build on that, you had said when you were going through your introduction, you've built your business up to be so successful for yourself. You're in your third year of making 6 figures, and that's an amazing achievement, but that's not without bringing on help. And I think a lot of people feel like they need to do it on their own or do it without paying others. And one of the things is, especially when you're an entrepreneur and a mother, and you have these 2 very demanding life projects,
little creatures,
it's okay to get that help. And sometimes we make those excuses, whether it's pride or shame or guilt or whatever it is.
It's all of those things rolled into one. I mean, moms really are really hard on themselves with things like this. And I get it. And I've had the gut-wrenching moments of a kid crying because I went upstairs to work or to do a phone call. But honestly, it's been great. And when I wrote this
long
post recently about them going to school, and I very publicly thanked the 2 women that helped me raise these kids. One when I lived in New Jersey for 18 months, and then one here in Michigan for 18 months, and lots of other people peppered in along the way. But as far as, they made a huge impact on our family, and without them, my business would not be a success today.
When it comes to you being this entrepreneur, having your kids, kind of having that interesting dynamic of being able to stay at home but also hire someone out, and then melding that with having your husband who works full time and has his job. How do you work that dynamic as a family, and have you had any struggles with that, and how would you have overcome that?
Oh yeah, it's is a daily struggle. I mean, I don't think anyone ever figures that out all the way. At least in my house, I mean, we have very defined roles and responsibilities. My husband's job is absolutely insane. I pretty much, do everything with the kids during the day. I mean, he has not seen them in around 4 days, I think now. I think He got to see one of them at 6 o'clock in the morning one morning because one of them piped up early. I mean, his job is extremely demanding. He's in a 3rd-year surgical residency program, and that's just how it works. So we sort of count him out. Like, I mean, we don't factor him into our daily schedules and decision makings, but on the weekends, I mean, he does tons of stuff with them, and so that's fine. Managing it, you just have to sort of decide how you want your schedule to be. Like for me, I wanted to be around them during the day. So I'd have babysitters come just from 9 to 1, and then I'd hang out with them every afternoon, bring them to the park in the afternoon. And, we started with 2 days a week. And then as my business grew, we'd add a 3rd day, add a 4th day until 5 days a week. Someone was coming 9 to 1 to help me. But every afternoon, I mean, it was like I was a stay-at-home mom. I could take them to a museum. I could take them to the zoo. And then I'd get some stuff done after they went to bed. I mean, I thought that when they went to school, I would not have to work after they went to bed, but I've been working after they went to bed every night. So you just get to design your schedule. So it's up to you how you want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I guess my personal experience just on designing my own schedule has sometimes had me feeling like, I wouldn't call it guilt, but I've felt, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I need to be like everyone else and be normal and have this normal work schedule or this normal life. And my life has become even more so in the most recent months, far, far from it. No. And I don't know, sometimes I have a hard time kind of accepting, like, this is my life. This is how I work. These are the hours that I get to work. And it might be way different than other people's, but I don't know. I don't even know if I'm communicating this right, but does this resonate with you?
For sure. And I say what we do is not normal. What we do is very unique, and it takes a very specific personality type to be a full-time entrepreneur who earns a great income that allows them to have the life they want, travel when they want, do what they want. And because of that, we have somewhat abnormal hours. And I have always been more productive at night. And so I'll do really mindless tasks in the morning. And I somehow, like, the posts and the thousands of words just come at night. And I would love to change that about myself, but it seems sort of stuck that way. Yeah. I don't feel guilty because all of us had to go through a point of working and building this on the side in order to get to this point. And when I lived in the Caribbean, there were a lot of wives of the medical students there, and they had a lot of fun while they were there. And I worked my tail off. I did. Mm-hmm. And there were many times that I got invited to the beach or the pool, and I did do a lot of that, and it was nice. But I did not count it. I counted it as my 3-year opportunity to build something awesome. And so I didn't really click with a lot of them because, I don't know, I was just strange to them. Like, it was strange to sit in my house all day to try to figure out how to build freelance clients while we lived on this beautiful island. But all of those days and all of those times, allowed me to do what I wanted to do yesterday, which my kids were off of school and I took them to the zoo after I turned in a $400 post yesterday morning. So, but that's why I did it. So no, we're not normal. And I think it's good to just own it and know that you're doing exactly what you want to do. And it is a privilege, but it's something that you worked really hard to do.
Yes. Thank you. I'm learning things from my podcast again. I am always like, oh, I feel so much better now.
Anytime we can talk about the weirdness of being an entrepreneur, anytime.
Right. I want to pivot into talking about the other aspect of momhood, which is what you help. It seems that you've been pretty hands-on with finances ever since the get-go, but there's lots of moms out there, some that I personally work with, who are trying to just become more active in the financial roles within their families. I mean, we so often see this where the financial planners meet with the men or talk directly to the men and just assume that the men are the ones who are in control of this aspect of our lives. And when in reality, we should both, as a couple, both be kind of committing to this. So what are your tips for moms who are trying to become more active in their families' financial lives?
That's a great question. And it's so interesting. What I've noticed over time and talking to hundreds of moms over the last couple of years is it kind of all comes down to one thing, and it's not what you would expect. It's confidence or the lack thereof. It's not necessarily the financial lingo or the financial advisors talking to their husband or the numbers. Like, it's none of that. It's just, I find that women in general lack confidence in many aspects of their lives. And so the thing that I would suggest is to try to build that muscle first. And you can do that by doing some personal development, listening to personal development podcasts, reading some personal finance books, like sort of getting a general understanding. But you can do all of those things and still not feel confident. So I think that it just has to be a mantra that moms repeat to themselves, like, I am a mom. Like, I legit grew a human. I take care of these kids every day. I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, if I can do that, which is the hardest job on the planet, no doubt, then of course I can manage my budget. Of course I can learn about investing. Like, big whoop. It has all these words like ETF and mutual fund. It's so confusing. Like, so what? I'm a mom. Like, I Googled all that rash all last week and figured it out. So it's like, I'm just going to Google what the ETF is. Like, what the hell is that? Let me figure it out. Of course so I just think that there just needs to be this more confidence. Like this is not rocket science. Like, anyone can figure out money. It's very simple. It's just the industry overcomplicates it. And the thing is everybody makes money mistakes. Every financial expert on the planet has made big mistakes. That's how a lot of people become experts to begin with. And so don't expect like you have to be perfect, just like you can't expect to be a perfect parent every day. Like, I don't think I've made it through one day without yelling at my kids at some point, like not one day. So I don't expect to be perfect when it comes to my money. It's just having the confidence to find the answers and to speak up and use your voice within your family and your husband and your advisors, whoever you're talking to. Like, say what you want and where you think things should go.
Yeah. Or just ask too. Like, if you don't understand something, that's
questions.
their job.
Yeah. Ask some questions. As many as it takes. And if they're rude, fire them. Go find another one.
Right. I love that. What a pep talk. The other question I had, as it revolves around moms and becoming more involved in finances within their families, is actually something I see you do within your content, is working with your kids and helping them develop an understanding of finance and financial education. So I guess if you were to be working with a mom, say I'm a new mom, what are like the top 3 things that I could be doing with my children to just help them build this awareness, but also, maybe a couple years down the road, what could we be doing to get them to start becoming more involved in making their own financial decisions so they can potentially like make mistakes and learn from them?
Sure. That's great. I mean, I think that's a great question. I think awareness is definitely the first step. I've been talking to my kids about money since they were like 3-month-old infants in my stroller, that my big double stroller I had to bring to the grocery store because I couldn't push it and push a grocery cart at the same time. So I would literally be talking to this babies like, I am pulling my debit card out right now and I am buying these groceries. And I would just talk to them all the time. And I say it, I'm pulling up in the car. I've got 2 babies. Kids, I'm getting out the car and I'm buying gas. And the only reason I can buy gas today is because I worked hard yesterday. I mean, I'd like announcing this to babies, right? Mm-hmm. So this goes on and on and on to now where I have 4.5-year-olds who are earning money and doing specific chores to earn money. And, my son wants to go to the car wash every single day because he loves the car wash. And so I say, sorry, I don't have money for that today. And so then, he kind of figured out that if he brings money, then maybe we go to the car wash. So he'll like collect coins around the house and say, can we go to the car wash today? But to me, that's great because he knows that you have to buy it ahead of time. And so number one is awareness. Number two is making the connection between work and money is probably the most important thing that I can do. It does not matter if they can balance a budget, if they don't understand where it comes from and how to do it. So all the time, if it's like an extra task, or I just try and give them, like, I call them coins because they don't really know the difference between all the coins just yet, but I'll give them a coin for doing different things around the house, and then they can save it, see how it goes. They kind of are starting to understand that when they get something that they lose their coins, so then I say, well, we got to replenish them. All these little things that you learn. So yeah, awareness, and then the connection between work and money. And then, number three is let them make their own mistakes. It's better for them to make mistakes in your house, under your roof, than it is in the big world. So like, if you can say like, do X, Y, and Z, or our family gives fines for things not completed on time. In the real world, you would get a fine for a late payment. So if you're late on stuff or you don't do things, like, I'm going to have fines and earnings and all kinds of things. You can teach them about interest. This is for older kids. I can give you $5 now, or if you so choose, you can wait 2 weeks and it'll be, $7. And all these things, I think it's better to teach them under a roof and let them do stupid things and spend too much on Legos and realize their money is gone, like, early. That way They're more aware when they're older.
So my last question, as part of the tangible tips round, really things that people can be doing, more so revolves around, we can get out of the kind of momhood and moms with getting more involved in their finances. I want to know, what is one piece of unconventional money wisdom that you believe and teach to your audience that, maybe other people would be like, what?
I think this is becoming more conventional, but it used to not be. And one thing I teach is that money is good and fun to talk about. Money is good. It is good. And I know some people say money is neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it. But I think money is good. I think it is okay to want to earn a lot of money. I think that it's good for the world if everybody believes money is good and wants to use it for good. I think it's good to talk about it, good to be open about it. And I think the more you believe that money is good, the more of it will come to you. If you think money is bad and you feel like you never have enough of it and you're always struggling, or you say out loud, I'm bad with money, I am a spender, I spend too much. Like, if you attach all those bad feelings to it, I think more bad things happen, just in my experience. So, yeah, I guess the unconventional, it's not really a lesson or anything, but it's just something I always say, like, money is good and it's okay to want a lot of it.
Yeah, I like that. Say that out loud to your three-month-old babies, and then people will think you're totally normal.
Right. Just say it out loud in the car like a crazy person. That's right.
But seriously, do. So moving on to the quick and dirty Q&A. These are just some fast-paced questions to wrap up the show. The first one may not be so fast-paced, but it's just one of my favorites, and it is time to confess. So you mentioned earlier in this interview that all financial experts have made mistakes with their money. It might be something embarrassing or something that people would just think is really odd, but would you be open to sharing an embarrassing money move, either something you've spent money on or a mistake you made or something you don't buy because you're too frugal when it comes to any realm of your finances?
I mean, I see what you did there, bringing that full circle. Gosh, I mean, where to begin? So many money mistakes. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones was when I was finishing graduate school, I only had maybe $10,000 of student loan debt, just kind of supplementing that stipend. And then like 2 weeks before I finished graduate school, for some brilliant person told me that I could still apply for financial aid. I was getting married and planning a honeymoon and all of that stuff. And I took out like a several $1,000 loan 2 weeks before graduating, and they gave it to me. And then I used that money for like wedding stuff, honeymoon, all that. I mean, it was not used for school. And I just wish I would have just held off for 2 weeks, because it really added to that balance majorly. I mean, that was just a monstrous mistake well before my personal finance blogging days. But, I mean, my husband had like one of those leases where it was like, oh, if you, like a apartment lease, it's like, oh, get the first month free. And so we had gotten married, and we had gotten our new apartment lease for like, his lease was ending in March, and we were going to start a new lease in April. And then it came out like the fine print of the contract, like his turned into a 13-month lease, like, cause it was 1 month free on top of it. So we didn't read the fine print. So like right when we got married, a few months in, we had 3 rents at one time, because I was moving from my apartment, he was moving from his, and then we had this new one that we had gotten too soon. And that was right around the time that I got this like extra money from graduate school. Like we almost fell apart right there. Just stupid, just not reading the fine print. So I'm really specific about all contracts since then. I mean, I've like paid for things for my business, tests that haven't worked out, thousands of dollars on different tools and programs and people that have not turned out to be good. I mean, it could be a whole podcast just on mistakes, but I'm open to talking about them because we all make them. So
yeah. Well,
those are 2 big ones, though. Yeah, those were ouchies. Those.
Yeah, 2 that happened like right at the same time. That just shows how great of a relationship you and your husband have, that you can make it through that point.
Oh yeah, we're a dream. These 2.
So an eye for an eye. I always like to confess my own, because
cool.
I just can't have people, putting their shame out there and then me being like, all right, thank you.
All right, let's hear it.
So speaking of fine print, sort of, I think like the lesson here today is just like review and read everything. Mine was not nearly as big of a mistake. It was just really a stupid thing that happened a couple months ago when I was planning a trip, and I filled out this like, it was basically just, I was looking for a flight, and I filled out this Google form, and Google knows my email address because I'm always logged in for my Gmail. Right. And it just filled out my first and last name as what my first and last name is technically registered as for my Gmail, which is actually Wander Wealthy by Tess Wicks, because I wanted my YouTube channel to be named that. So you have to like change your first and last name. So my flight was booked under Wander Wealthy by Tess Wicks. And I was like, crap, well, what do I do? And it was just this long process of thinking. The mistake continued because I called them. It was like 1 a.m. Also, just don't book flights at 1 a.m.
Right.
It was 1 a.m. Italy time, and we're 7 hours ahead or 6 hours ahead of Eastern time. And I was calling them trying to get this fixed, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to bed. I have 24 hours, like assuming that that's the rule in every country. And this was Scandinavian airline flight. And so the next day I woke up and called them, and they were like, oh no, you just had till 10 p.m. Eastern. Like, that's our rule. So another mistake of not reading the fine print or figuring out what the rules are. And it only ended up being €80, which I think is like $100 or something. But
yeah.
You know what?
It's not small. It's not nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing, and it's just stupid and annoying, and we all make these mistakes.
Oh, for sure. That's a good one, actually, Tess.
Thank you. Well, it just happened to me, so,
Yeah. Oh,
all right,
man.
Moving on. What is one non-negotiable money indulgence that you refuse to cut from your budget?
Ooh, high-end gym. 100%.
Yeah, I love it.
That's my babysitter, mostly. Free coffee, free Wi-Fi, watch the kids. Sometimes I even work out there. So
it's like your co-working space.
Basically, I do have some like app builder buddies who sit next to me. None of us work out, but they watch our kids, so it works out.
That is amazing. More affordable alternative to co-working space in Detroit.
Sure.
What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning and the last thing before bed?
Well, I cuddle my kids in the morning. I've got kids and sleeping arrangements, right? So one of them wants to be by me. So one of them is in like a small cot next to me in the bed, like not in my bed, but it's because I could not sleep, but he's always there. And yeah, I tell him he can come in my bed and we cuddle in the morning. And then my daughter usually joins us. And so I like having that time with them in the morning. I feel so bad my husband is like gone at 5:30 in the morning. He misses out on that. But I like starting my day like that. I'm like a night owl. I'm not an early riser. So I kind of wake up with the children. And yeah, that's the morning one. Did you ask for a night one? I'm sorry.
The last thing you do before bed.
Oh, I listen to an audiobook. I've got a couple of ones with really monotone voices. Like, surprisingly, the Magic of Tidying Up book has a very monotone voice. And so I listen about organizing sometimes to help me go to sleep. I have other ones like Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, which clearly I don't have miracle mornings, but the book is very monotone and it helps you go to sleep. Fills your brain with good ideas. Yeah. That's
fantastic. All right. What is your best recommendation for a financial book, an app, or a tool?
I like YNAB for budgeting. There's a learning curve, though. I don't know what you use or if you use it, but I almost didn't use YNAB. And then I got an email like 3 months later. It was like, come back to us, try again, because it was too confusing even for me. And then once I figured out how it worked, I like it a lot. It operates the same way I operate, like having the money for the month, like a month ahead of time. So I like YNAB a lot. You need a budget.
All right, Kat, tell us where we can find you so we can keep following along with you and your journey and your little ones.
Sure. I'm at KatherineAlford.com, and then all my social channels and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff is linked on the site.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It was so fun to chat, and
Thanks, Tess.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
All right, my friends, that wraps episode number 75 with Katherine Alford. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Make sure that you go to this episode's show notes so you can get all of the links that Kat mentioned, plus get, the links to her site and follow along with her. You can go to wanderwealthypodcast.com/podcast/episode 75 to check all of that stuff out, plus see the links on how to get involved in the Wealthy Wanderers private Facebook community. See if you're interested in signing up for the Money Program, where I've helped tons of moms, whether they're stay-at-home moms, working moms, entrepreneur moms, get their finances together and become a part of their family finances. And if you're really in need of some accountability and some one-on-one personalized advice, then of course you can always sign up for my one-on-one coaching. Go to wanderwealthy.com/apply, and that will get you in the door to get set up with a free 30-minute discovery call, and then we can see if coaching will be right for you. So those are all the resources you need to know in order to take control of your financial life. And until next week, I hope you wander wealthy.